first one is number 4, duty of employer and self-employed person. Okay. When an employer is subject to a duty under the regulations which is regard to one of his employees, he shall to extend the precedentables, so also subject to the similar duty with regard to any other person who may impact by the work activity the employees engage in the work, whether at work or not, with the expectations that the obligations of the employees must have their duties on the day. Okay, unless those people who are the premiers and working for the employer, the protection of regulations 26 do not apply to people who are not his worker, and no person who is not one of these employees shall be covered by regulation 27. It means there is no any law or any permission that outside people can come and working or distract the working place. So a self-employed person is subject to those restrictions in the same way as an employer and employee are with the expectation of regulation 26 and 27. So this is what we can match with USECHH regulation 2000. Duty of employers and self-employed persons are important to this kind of chemical hazards problems. Moreover, for the second classes is control measure. It's coming from the regulations 15 from the USECHH regulations. So the following control method must be used by the employee to limit the chemical that harmful to health. So nowadays most of the workers and employees are facing the chemical hazards problems with the healthies and damaging even death of the peoples. So the first one is the removal of potential harmful chemical from the workplace. Everyone must be take advantage to this. And the second one is using less harmful components in the workplace of potential harmful ones. The third one is complete the ensure of the handling and process system and isolating the works to stop the realized substances that harmful to the human health. The next one is changing the process setting. Maybe if the incident is not valuable and not working, change the process, change the method to avoid the harmful things. And utilize engineering control tools. So every workers with chemical hazards must have any tools to avoid the problems. And implementing safe work produce and system to eliminate to reduce the health risk. And this one is provide personal protection equipment that has been approved. So every things and every equipment must be provided and approved by the personal protection equipments for the safety. So the employees is responsible for making sure that all the safe work procedure and document are followed. Must follow all the documents and rules by the workers. So whenever there is a substantial modifications to the procedure, apparatus, components or control measure installed, the employees shall see it all the safe working system and practice are evaluated. Okay, the third classes is 32, information, instructions and training. So employees that engage in work that load expose like their staff to chemical that harmful to healthy and required to given their staff the information, instructions, training that may be incurred to ensure they are aware of that. So information, instructions and training are the awareness for every employees that are working in the chemical hazards procedures. Okay, the following is the health risks such as explosives poses and the safety measure that need to be taken. And number 2 is without limiting the application of sub-reactions. 1, the details must be included. So the details are details regarding any experiment monitoring results applied at the workplace in according with the regulation 26 and the data on the overall finding of any health salvation project carried out with a line with regulation 27 and presented in a way that prevents from the begin like a specific individual. So from this they can avoid the problem that explodes with this health risk measurements, safety and everything included, and the details must be listed. Okay, the third one is the employee's responsibility for conduct and delivering the training courses. So minimum a year, every 2 years, they must conduct the training. So if the health association with the substations, safe work practices or control methods alters. Okay.
Warning signs are posted at a conspicuous place at every entrance of the area to one person entering the area of the hazard. Provide an appropriate classification of chemical according to the potential hazard and to take essential information about this chemical to user through standardized pictogram, signal word, hazard statement, and precautionary statement in labels and safety data sheets. For example, using the ANSI Z535 and ISO 3864 standards, Register of Chemical Hazardous Health. A register of hazardous chemical is a list of all hazardous chemicals kept at the workplace, as well as the current safety data sheet of each chemical product. Under the work health and safety regulations, the register must be prepared and maintained so that people can easily find the current information about all hazardous chemicals that are stored, handled, or used in workplace. Use of appropriate personal protective equipment. Personal protective equipment, commonly referred to as PPE, is equipment want to minimize exposure to hazards that cause serious workplace injuries and illnesses. These injuries and illnesses may result from contact with chemical. The example of appropriate personal protective equipment is using full face air-filled respirator rather than a half-face respirator during spray painting operation.
What do you think the incident or accident is suitable to represent the above topic? Protecting employees from the adverse effect of chemical is one of the primary duties of an employer under the Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994. To perform this duty, an assessment of all chemicals used in the workplace must be carried out in order to identify, evaluate, and control any health risks associated with work activities involving the use of the chemical. Under the Occupational Safety and Health Use and Standard of Exposure of Chemical Hazardous to Health Regulation 2000, hereinafter referred to as Usechh, Regulation 2000, the duty to perform an assessment of health risks arising from the use of chemical hazardous to health at the place of work is mandatory, whereby employers are not permitted to use any chemicals hazardous to health useless, and assessment has been conducted. Number 1. Identify all potential exposures by reviewing the various tasks carried out by the work unit. Number 2. Assess how frequent job or task is carried out.
The GHS consent the specification for SDS to follow at section format. Section 1, identification of the chemical or mixture and of the organisation. An important consideration in this section is making sure that the name of the chemical match up with the label on the chemical container. Many chemical have similar names but have different properties. This section will also identify relevant use of the chemical. Section 2, Hazard Identification. This is one of the most important sections of the SDS for writing a hazardous chemical assessment. This section outlines the physical and health effect of the chemical. It will include any relevant hazard warning label. Section 3, composition or information in ingredients. This section provides information on the composition of the substance, including the percentage if its hazardous constituents. Section 4, First Aid Measures. This section is useful to identify initial first aid treatment if a worker is exposed to a chemical. First aiders also need to be made aware of the information contained in an SDS to allow them to respond in the correct way in the case of an emergency. First, elimination of a chemical product means getting rid of it entirely. The best way to remove a chemical product is to ban, prohibit, or restrict it at the work sites. You can eliminate a chemical before it get on site or afterwards by removing it from the physical chemical inventory. When you remove the chemical, you remove the hazard. And elimination works best in the design phase of the project and or the task. The next most effective means of control is substitutions. Substitution means to replace one chemical for other with lower physical and health hazards. Finding an effective chemical substitutions may take some effort, but it's worth to return on worker health. While elimination and substitution are the most effective method of control hazard. Engineering control protect workers by reducing hazardous condition or by adding a barrier between the worker and the hazard. There are three general types of general control. First, natural ventilation. Second, locus and out ventilation. Third, containment. Well, design and general control for hazardous chemical can be highly effective and be independent of worker actions. And the administrative control. Our practice designed to reduce the duration, frequency, and severity of exposure. They are always used in conjunction with other control. Administrative control often envelope chemical safety policy and standard operating procedures. Rules prohibiting certain behavior in the workplace. Housekeeping, health and workplace monitoring, alarm system, and training. The final level in control method is personal protective equipment or PPE. PPE refer to protective clothing, helmet, eyewear, and ear protection designed to protect workers from injury, illness, or infection. Respirators are also considered PPE.
1. Respiration to prevent the discharge of dangerous substance to the environment. Employers must monitor the respiration of workers for the discharge of hazardous chemical in every work area involving a large number of residents or workers. This is because if too many individuals are exposed to the potential of harm from those chemicals, there are many things that could happen to their health over time as a result of being exposed to dangerous compounds. Chemicals must also be released on a regular basis in a closed area so that they do not harm the health of others in the surrounding regions. 2. Use of safe work systems and practices to eliminate and minimize health risks. The Use of safe work system practices is very helpful to reduce the rate of accident in the workplace because many rules are followed by following the PPE standard correctly.